It's time to be about that life, the startup life. Here's your host, Dominic Lawson.
All right, Startup Nation. So I hope you're ready to receive some value today. My name is Dominic Lawson, and this is the Startup Life, the show for entrepreneurs and career-minded professionals. You know, Startup Nation, one of the beauties of this show is that we get to talk to entrepreneurs from all walks of life. And I promise you, they come up with such amazing products and services. And today's guest is definitely one of those guests we like to talk to. He is Tate Stock, the founder of Chirp. What's going on, boss?
How you doing?
All right, man. All right, man. So if you would, man, before we kind of dive into it, just kind of share your origin story and your background a little bit, if you don't mind, good sir.
Yeah. So my name is Tate Stock. I grew up in Washington. My dad's in the farming industry up there. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, I guess, working on a farm.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it was really hard work.
Gotcha.
Then when I went to college here in Utah.
Okay.
And from college, I guess I had a semester left in college, and I started this business. Previously, I didn't really, I started a little t-shirt business in high school.
Right.
And I had done some door-to-door summer sales selling pest control, which is actually how my wife and I we were able to live off that money for a couple of years while I started this business. Mm-hmm. So those are a couple of determining factors, I guess, that have helped lay the foundation to where we're at right now. But that's a little bit of a background. I'm married. I got 2 kids.
Gotcha.
And yeah.
That's awesome.
Just on the entrepreneur roller coaster.
I hear that. And speaking of entrepreneurial roller coaster, man, 2020 has been a blockbuster year for you, man, with Chirp. You're rocking and rolling, man. And once again, Startup Nation, that website is gochirp.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access. I assure you, Startup Nation, if you're one of the ones like myself that has issues with back pain and stuff like that, you definitely want to check it out. So make sure you go to gochirp.com. Once again, we got that link there in the show notes for easy access. So, man, just kind of walk us through the company a little bit, man. Kind of tell us about the Chirp Wheel and everything else.
Okay, so the Chirp Wheel is kind of like a foam roller.
Okay.
I guess is the best way to describe it.
Right.
But it's thinner in width and bigger in diameter. And so when you roll out, you sit on the ground, then you roll out your back.
Right.
On it, and it fits right into your shoulder blades. But we have 3 different sizes, and the different sizes just apply different amounts of pressure. Mm-hmm. So you can either dig deeper or have more of a gentle stretch. The Chirp Wheel. Let's see. We started back in 2015. I had a semester left in college, and my aunt had a similar product, like a roller type of product. Mm-hmm. And called a yoga wheel. And I looked up yoga wheel on Amazon, and simply just from being observant, I noticed that Amazon's algorithm was finishing my sentence, right? When you're typing something in, they guess what you're going to say.
Right.
So they finished my sentence, but there were no yoga wheels on Amazon. So I was like, well, somebody has got to be searching to buy these yoga wheels on Amazon. And so I went out and I bought $400 in sewer pipe. Mm-hmm. And $50 in yoga mat, and I strapped some skateboard wheels onto a table saw and took the sewer pipe and would lift it up and cut these rings out of sewer pipe and glued yoga mat to the outside and started selling these things. And in 2 weeks, we made $12,000. Mm-hmm. So from my buddy's barn, we turned this $400 in sewer pipe to $12,000. And then Amazon kicked us off because we'd sold too many that we couldn't keep up with the fulfillment. So they're like, hey, whoa. Like, you guys can't even keep up with your sales. We're going to make you ship through FBA or fulfilled by Amazon, right? So we had to. Got you. After that, we were able to get back on Amazon, but we had to prep some inventory to send it to their warehouse.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny, man. Like you have. Like this thing that works really well and it goes a little bit too well. And then it brings up a whole set of problems you just never really anticipated. And I appreciate that story because Startup Nation, that's important. One of the things we always talk about is balance. You know what I mean? I mean, true enough, you want you want to blow the doors off your sales quotas, but at the same time, there's a certain level of, balance we got to maintain. So I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Thanks.
But go for it. I'm sorry.
No, a lot of people are like, well, how'd you go from like, obviously the first goal of any product, if you're gonna go for it, is test it, right? Is it going to actually sell? And that's what I feel like one thing that we've lived by is launch imperfect products. So we didn't have a branded shipping box. We didn't have a sticker on the product. We didn't have a logo. We just started selling these things because you can have all these things, but it's not going to matter. You're going to waste your time if you can't actually get the sales in the first place.
That's true.
So that yes, it was I would say it was lucky that we got onto Amazon, but it was also, I was really observant of the product and the opportunity, and then the sales that were able to kind of prove the idea right out of the gate.
For sure. I appreciate you sharing that for sure. And like I said, man, 2020 has been like, you've been a rock star here in 2020, man. You sold 1 million Chirp Wheels this year. Forbes 30 under 30 from manufacturer, man. Let me ask you this, man, kind of talk about what all that means to you, but also kind of talk about, why do you think, 2020 has kind of been a kind of sort of a breakout year for you? I know you was on Shark Tank as well. We're going to talk about that a little bit in just a second, but why do you think 2020 was a breakout year for you? You think it was just right place, right time? Do you think with, due to COVID, that has something to do with? Just kind of talk about it in your own words, Tate, if you don't mind.
So 2020 has been great for us.
Right.
We've grown like crazy. But some of it is COVID helped, right? People are at home and they have back pain. They can't go to their physical therapist or chiropractor.
Of course.
But more than that, I feel like it was just a lot of preparation and things coming together.
Fair enough.
Anyone that has a big year, has a big success, it's really easy to see, wow, look at what they did in a year. Look what they did in a couple months. But there were several years of preparing for that and ramping up for the year that we're at now. And so I think a lot of things just came together this year. You mentioned Forbes 30 under 30 and Shark Tank, and those I'd applied to Shark Tank twice before I even got on, and and both of those opportunities, they actually came to me. So Forbes called me up and said, hey, we want you to apply. What that does is it puts you at the top of the pile. And Shark Tank actually called us up and said, hey, we want you to apply. Now we still had to go through the whole application process, but boom, you're at the top of a 60,000 applicant pile.
Right.
Now that's where I feel like just the grind and the preparation starts coming together.
I hear that.
Is because right now on we get over 8 million impressions a day on our advertising. So it's a ton, right? But because we're pushing and we've prepped, these opportunities start coming to us because you're I guess a little bit more well known.
Right. I appreciate that, because I think there's right place, right time, but there's also, like you said, man, there's a bit of, you make your own luck. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate that as well. And before I get into the Shark Tank part, because, obviously people want to hear about that. I want to ask you this, man, because, we were talking about COVID. We know a lot of people are, dealing with, a lot of stuff, back pain and stuff like that. I think one of the things I appreciate about your company and what you do with the Chirp Wheel is because, let's be honest for a second, right? We're kind of in an era of not just COVID, but, addiction is an issue. And a lot of people treat, back pain and stuff like that with pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. But your product is a way to kind of help stem that a little bit. Do you ever think about that impact that you have with your company in that regard?
Yeah. So our company wasn't built on necessarily like a giving back mission.
Right. Of course.
I don't think every company has to, but as we've grown in success, now the opportunity or availability to give back is there.
Right.
So we're really excited. We're actually working on a mission to launch next year, more fighting the opioid addiction epidemic, where you have a lot of people that can't get the relief that they need, or they have to get surgery, or in some way or another they have to take painkillers, and they're really easy to to get addicted to. My aunt, sorry, not my aunt, my wife's uncle, he died of an opioid addiction. And,
sorry to hear that.
And I have other family that's been severely impacted by it. And so, it is cool, right? We have a real product solving real pain for real customers. And that feels good because there's a lot of products out there, especially in our space of pain relief, that are a little bit gimmicky.
Right.
And so, it is really cool for us to be, and I think that's why at the core, the product really works, and why we've been able to grow and be so successful is at the core, the product works and it's good, and it's, and it helps. It's an alternative to some of those other pain relief methods that people don't necessarily want to use.
For sure. No, and like I said, I think that, sometimes when we're on an entrepreneurial journey and stuff like that, like you said, like the goal is to make sure the product works, the product is serviceable, people like the product and stuff like that. But just sometimes you just find yourself in a space that you didn't anticipate. And, maybe it's just a great idea to lean in because you didn't realize it at first, but now, you get to help in other ways. And I just always find that those type of stories pretty cool. What do you think, Tate?
Yeah, it's definitely come together. Now, like I mentioned before, we were selling the yoga wheel at the beginning, but it wasn't, we were focused on the yoga market for the first 2 years of business.
Right.
And then we listened to our customers and worked with health professionals and just switched the entire focus to back pain.
Gotcha.
So that's another thing, that it wasn't just lucky. We were observant of, hey, why do our customers really like this product? And what kind of marketing focus and what kind of benefit should we focus on? And that was back pain.
Right.
So.
Right. No, and I appreciate that. All right, Startup Nation. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We got to pay some bills. Once again, my name is Dominic Lawson, and you're listening to The Startup Life. Tresta powers this episode of The Startup Life. Okay, Startup Nation, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Tresta. Tresta is an app for iPhone and Android that lets you do business calling and texting from anywhere. I know so many entrepreneurs that are still using their personal phone number for business calls. It can get complicated drawing the line between your personal and professional life. Startup Nation, this is the best business phone app out there. Whether you just need a business phone number or if your team is ready for a complete business phone system, Tresta is totally flexible and can grow with your business. And it's all unlimited calling, texting, and all of the powerful call management features like auto attendance, call recording, user groups, and more for just $15 per user per month. With Tresta, there's no contract, and you don't need any special hardware, just your smartphone you're already using. Tresta is easy to configure, so you can set everything up yourself, all online, avoiding all the hassle and high overhead costs of setting up a traditional business phone system, which is important because as entrepreneurs, we are always trying to cut cost and time. They're offering a 30-day free trial so you can see if Tresta's virtual phone system is right for you. Communicate smarter and more efficiently with Tresta. Start now at Tresta.com/startup life. That's TRESTA.com/startup life. The link is there in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. Tresta, business communication simplified. All right, Startup Nation, welcome back as we continue our conversation with today's guest here on The Startup Life. For sure. Once again, Startup Nation, we're talking to Tate Stock, the founder of the Chirp Wheel. Once again, if you want to check out the Chirp Wheel, make sure you go to gochirp.com. We have that link there in the show notes for easy access. So let's talk about Shark Tank a little bit, man. I think your episode aired not too long ago. You talked about how you got there a little bit, but let's talk about how it kind of went down. First of all, I know they're doing things a little different due to COVID and stuff like that. Kind of talk about that part of the experience a little bit, as far as like the social distancing in the studio. Kind of talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So they normally film down in LA.
Right.
Due to COVID, though, it was all filmed in Las Vegas at the Venetian Hotel. We flew there. Me and one of my employees that did the demonstration on the show.
Right.
We flew down there about 2 weeks beforehand, and we had to quarantine in the hotel. We couldn't even go down to the ice machine down the hall.
Wow.
So it was like locked down. They fed us 3 meals a day, and I'm glad I had somebody else in there with me. Is I would have been crazy, but I would have gone crazy. Anyway, then at the end of that, about 2 weeks, then we filmed, and we were in the tank for over an hour, and the tank is intense. You know what you see on TV is only like 8 minutes, but,
right?
And usually only one person's talking at a time, and it's on when it airs on TV.
Right.
But in the tank, man, there's 3 questions coming at you at a time, and it's intense, but it was a really good experience.
Gotcha. And speaking of intense, man, like I said, like you said, you're in the tank for about an hour. You only see about, 7, 8, 9 minutes of it and stuff like that. But you had some interesting, interactions with Lori and Damon John and stuff like that. Kind of talk about those exchanges a little bit, man, because, I kind of appreciated the intensity, but also appreciated, man, you was going after it a little bit. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So we went into the tank with the highest company valuation ever on Shark Tank.
Right.
So we went in asking for $900,000 for 2% of the company. Now, why it was so little is you have to get the amount of money that you go in for. That's like the one Shark Tank rule, right? I couldn't say, hey, I'll give you 10%, but I want $5 million for it, because there's no way you're going to get the $5 million.
Right.
So we went in asking $900,000 for 2%. But we'd also had the highest reported sales in Shark Tank. So the intensity wasn't so much from our valuation, because our sales had backed up what we thought the company was worth. And even Kevin was like, sweet, man, this is awesome.
Right.
They had no problem with the valuation. The intensity came a little bit from like, are you even here for a partner? Because a lot of these companies that are a little bit bigger will go on. They just do it for the publicity. They don't really want a partnership. Right. But if you pay attention, a lot of those companies also have a big board of advisors. They have investors. They have they have venture capital that's already involved in the business.
Right.
So the publicity is great, but they don't really want the partnership because they already got those partnerships.
Right.
Now I bootstrapped the business and I own 100% of it. And I don't have any partners and I don't have outside investors, and we're growing like crazy. And so I was genuinely there for a partnership, which was really foreign for them. And I think that trust barrier to get over, to believe I was actually there for a partnership, was a little bit hard for them, until I said, hey, the money is great. We'll use the money for a year, but we'll pay you back.
Right.
We'll pay you back the money in a year. Like, I genuinely want a partner. And that's when Lori was all over it. Right. And that happened pretty early on. So Lori was like, hey, I'll do the $900,000 for 2%. And then the show went on, and a lot of the episode focuses on fighting over the 0.5% a little bit.
Right. Exactly.
It happened over the course of 20 minutes, but also people are like, man, what are you doing? Not like 0.5% is nothing, but it also is like 0.5% change in valuation was $9 million. That was a $9 million swing in our valuation.
Right. Exactly.
Which it wasn't the biggest deal. I was testing Lori a little bit to see because she came back and she changed her offer to 2.5%.
She did, like on a dime too. I saw that. Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry, if you haven't seen that episode, we have that link there in the show notes as well, Startup Nation. But like, she really did, like, without blinking, she changed that 0.5%. But go ahead, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Oh no. So
anyway. Yeah, it was just to see if she would go back to that 2%.
Right.
I held my ground for a little bit. Again, I'm genuinely interested in the partnership, and so we ended up getting a deal. We took her offer for the 2.5%.
For sure.
and then we would pay her money back by the end of 2021.
I hear that.
So,
well, first of all, congratulations, man. I appreciate, that's awesome.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
you bring up an interesting point though, because a lot of times, man, we have, those newly minted entrepreneurs, those newly minted startup founders, man, and they're just all about the purse strings. They're all about the purse strings. They just want the check so they can do whatever it is they want to do. But you generally went in for the partnership. And I think it goes to show that sometimes that partnership, is probably more valuable than the check. Sometimes, wouldn't you agree with that?
I 100% agree.
Right.
It's hard to think this way until you've experienced it, but
right.
Talking with several entrepreneurs that are way beyond us, they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. Every single one of them says, I got from the beginning to, and maybe they proved their own sales at the beginning, right? They got a couple $1 million in sales, but how they really grew is they brought on the right people.
Right.
And, you can have all of a small pie, or you can have a piece of a bigger pie.
Right.
Now, I think it's important not to, depends on the industry you're in, but
of course,
you shouldn't sell your company off before it's worth anything.
Of course.
But some industries like tech, you got to grow fast. And so
right.
I can see how, hey, we need that money up front.
Right.
But yeah, I'm at the point where, it's like, wow, the company's worth a lot more now, but I'm more than ever, I'm willing to bring on some partners because I know they're going to help me get to the next level, right? With the connections and the decision making. And
exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah. I tell people all the time, sometimes, people's Rolodex is probably more valuable than the purse strings, than the pockets, you know what I mean? And so, and obviously, like you said, it depends on your situation. You got to know your situation best. But I think, unfortunately, we have, a lot of people who just think, oh, I gotta get the big check, right? But when there's so much more to the investor than the check, and you saw that, and I kudos to you for seeing that, man. And I appreciate that. And I have to admit, man, I think you got the best one for what you do and for what Lori does and what she's an expert in, man. Like I think that's a match made in heaven, man. Kind of talk about that relationship just a little bit. It probably hasn't been too much because I know it just kind of happened a little bit not too long ago. But kind of talk about that relationship, up until now.
Yeah. So there's a few interesting things about Shark Tank,
right.
I guess. So they obviously, when you go onto the show and you get a deal, it's just a handshake agreement.
Right.
That handshake agreement, afterwards, you go out and you meet their representative, and then you go through the process of due diligence. So they ask for all your numbers and information, and that process actually takes some time. So we're actually still in that process right now.
Gotcha.
Right now with Lori.
Gotcha.
So the partnership really, I can't speak too much to the partnership of like how it's going, because it's kind of just like it's still forming, and
right.
Not all the deals. I think only about half of the deals that air on Shark Tank or whatever are on Shark Tank go through. So we're hoping, all of our numbers are really accurate, what we reported, and so I don't know. We'll see. We hope it goes through.
Gotcha. And I'm glad you pointed that out and appreciate that transparency, man. Because I think a lot of times we see on TV like, oh, you got the deal. It's like, no. That's just the beginning part. that's 1%. Like you got the other 99%. You got to do. You got to go, like you said. And you bring up an interesting point in that as well. Like those numbers, man. Those numbers. I can't tell you whether you're watching the Shark Tank or the Profit or whatever you like to watch when it comes to entrepreneurship and stuff like that. They all have that one common denominator, man. Them numbers better be right. Those numbers better be right. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to ask one more question before I kind of transition and get you out of here really quickly, man, because one of the things I noticed that's very interesting is probably a great differentiating factor for you is that your Chirp Wheel is FDA approved, man. Kind of talk about that process and how that's been a differentiator for you and your business.
Yeah. So switching from yoga to back pain it's a little bit scary, right? You're a little bit more in the pain management side. It's less of a hobby,
right? More
of a pain relief, but it also provides a lot of opportunity. So one thing that we've done is register the Chirp Wheel with the FDA, saying, hey, this is a Class 1 medical device. It's registered with the FDA. It helps with our transparency. It also helps with our customers and trust of saying, hey, like this is a recognized product. So it's been, the registration has been a really good move for us.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And that employee you had on Shark Tank, man, that dude was like a ball of energy, man. That dude was awesome. I just wanted to point that out for sure. Once again, Startup Nation, we're actually wrapping up with Tate Stock, founder of Chirp. And once again, if you want to check out, his company and all his amazing doings, go to gochirp.com. We have that link there in the show notes for easy access. So, man, what's next for Chirp, man? I know you got the deal and the partnership with Lori, man, but outside of that, man, what's next? What are you seeing for your company, 2021 and 2022 and beyond?
Yeah. So we're, the Chirp Wheel is doing great.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously we're pushing that. This next year we'll be focusing more on retail channels. A key to our success has been just our focus on online and not getting too distracted with all the options out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're pushing more into retail stores. We're also growing our product line.
Gotcha.
With into other pain relief products and so we can help our customers out in more than just one way.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. And before I ask the last question, I just want to say once again, Tate, man, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. You've been amazing. You've given our audience amazing insight from a lot of different things. And once again, Startup Nation, we have that link in the show notes. Make sure you check out the Chirp and the Chirp Wheel. Got some amazing stuff coming down the pipeline, man. But look, man, if you would, man, like there's an entrepreneur out there, who kind of needs a little bit of advice, needs a little pick me up with with everything going on. If you would, just kind of give us some words of encouragement to take us out for today, man.
Yeah, I think you'll hear every entrepreneur just say, "Don't quit." But really, if someone's success and a failure is just a stage that you're in, right? And so if your idea doesn't work out, it's just it's just at the current stage that you're in. It doesn't mean you're a failure. But if you do quit, then that failure is like where the stage that you ended on. Most entrepreneurs go through these different stages, kind of like putting money in the stock market, right? You put money in, maybe put $10 in, the next day it drops and you only got $5 left. You haven't lost any money until you take it out.
Right.
Once you take it out, once you quit, boom, that's when you lost your $5. If you leave it in, if you keep grinding as an entrepreneur, that $5 might actually go up past the 10 to the 20 to the 30, and you'll see that success. And so, I guess my advice is keep on keeping on. I think
Gotcha.
Joe Dirt said that.
I hear that. Absolutely.
And then also, focus on the sales early on. If you want a good book to read, I love the book Ready, Fire, Aim. That one really helps you at the different stages of business. And as I look back and I've read that book, it's pretty accurate of the different challenges you'll go through. So I have most of the people that ask me questions read that book because I think it's a good place to start.
I heard that.
So I don't know. This is America, man. This is a home of the comeback kids.
Ooh,
there's
love that.
You can be anybody in high school, but you can come back to be whoever you want.
Right.
And there is no place on earth that has more opportunity. We have the internet. We have all sorts of opportunities to start a business and succeed. So no matter who you are, you can start somewhere and be a comeback kid.
I hear that. America is definitely the place of the comeback kid. Definitely love that. Appreciate you sharing that. And that's going to wrap up this session of the Startup Life. Once again, we want to thank Tate Stock, founder of Chirp and the Chirp Wheel. Thank you so much, my man.
Thanks, Dominic.
No worries. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, the Startup Life. If you want to let us know what you think about our show, have an idea for a show topic, or would like to advertise on our show, send us a message on the Startup Life Podcast Facebook page. And while you are there, like and follow our page as well. It's a great way for us to engage with you, Startup Nation, and really grow our community. The link is there in the show notes. Subscribe to the show as it can be heard on Apple Podcasts,
Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or even on your Facebook timeline or any other platform you like to get your podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you find our content valuable, please give us a 5-star rating, as it will help us climb the charts and help more people find our show. You can also listen to the show on the Startup Life Podcast new website. There you will find the all-new Startup blog, where I write on many topics that are interesting and helpful to you on your path to entrepreneurship. And hey, if you have an idea, be about that life, the startup life.